Hello, my name is Maddie, and today I wanted to talk about my top 10 favorite books I've read this year from the first half of the year. Just thought this would be fun. First, I thought I should have some honorable mentions because you're going to see in a second that my favorite books this year are primarily dominated by one series. So because of this, I have decided to have some honorable mentions. One would be Guns of the Dawn by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This was such a great book. It's a Pride and Prejudice retelling in war times with a fantasy element, and I'm just a really, really huge fan of Adrian Tchaikovsky in general. I love his worlds. I love the way he tells stories. I usually like his characters. I think he has really bizarre and interesting ideas that he makes feel really, really grounded. And this is one of his more grounded books. And yeah, I loved it. Another one would be My Friends by Fredrik Backman. I'm really surprised this isn't on my top 10 list this year. I mean, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and Fredrik Backman is actually my favorite author of all time. So, I mean, he writes anything and I'll read it. The only one I didn't love, his only book that I don't love is Anxious People. But yeah, other than that, I've loved every single Fredrik Backman book, and this is a really high Backman book for me, and I loved so much of what this book was saying. I loved the characters. There were parts that made me cry. Everything I want out of Backman is in this. I'm really surprised it's not on my top 10 list, but it is in spirit because I love it so much. And then another one would probably be A Pale View of Hills by Kazuo Ishiguro. Again, another book that took me just by complete surprise that you're going to see a lot of these books on that list did. I loved this book. I can't tell you a lot about it because I think that it would spoil some of the beauty of this book for you. And yeah, I really, really loved this book. 10 on my list is actually Valkyrie is Landed by Isato Isato. This is book 9 in the 86 series. I was really surprised to like this because I think I was just reading online and I was seeing a lot of people say that this was one of their least favorite books in the whole series, and that was not the case for me. I adored it. I think that the character arc for Karina, one of the main characters, was really, really phenomenal. Something terrible happened to the character Theo at the end of the previous book, and I thought the fallout of all of that and his journey moving forward was beautifully explored and touching, and I thought it just gave me chills in parts. I loved the villain. Oh my god, the villain was I think one of the best because she was terrifying, but at the same time she was like a traumatized child throwing a tantrum, and that I've not read a lot of villains like that, and it was actually really impactful for me. And also this book takes place in a theocracy. It's a very theocratic type government, and I am a religious person, and I don't think this book was being all anti-religion or anything, but it did impact me so much that there was a second that I was like, is religion wrong? Just because I thought that the actual themes were explored so well, and the human element, again, the humanity in all of these books, the evil within humanity, is something that really sticks out with me in all of these books, and this is just a good one. Really good. Number 9 would be Mist by Isato Isato. So this one is book 7 in the 86 series, and it's actually the kind of calm middle book in the series where the main characters go on vacation. And honestly, in comparison to the rest of the books where a lot is always happening, I don't know, it just feels very slow. The characters have time to breathe, even though it is a much more lighthearted book in comparison with a lot of the other books in this series. Lena, the main character, has a really good arc, having to figure out where she herself sits in the world as somebody that used to be part of the Republic of San Magnolia, who's then working with the 86, and the who she is not necessarily coming across in the figure she is becoming for different countries. She's like coming to terms with the fact that she's basically being a prop and she's going to be used to hurt people. And I think that that was really, really interesting. And I thought that her struggle with all of that was, again, just very, very compelling. I also love Zelene. She is one of the Legion that the characters in 86 are fighting. And I don't know, she's just, you get a whole lot of Zelene in this book, and I think that she is so interesting, and even now I feel like I've caught up with the series and I don't feel like I know enough about her, but this was a very Zelene heavy book and it made me happy. Number 8 is actually Great and Precious Things by Rebecca Yarros. Rebecca Yarros has been the biggest surprise author of this year for me, mostly because I actually really don't like romance. And maybe I'll amend that. I think I don't like rom-coms because I had a friend that recently told me that, like, Rebecca Yarros doesn't actually write romances. She writes tragedies with love in them. So, when she told me that, I was like, yeah, I can see that. That might be why I like these, because I do love me a tragedy. They tend to move me. But Great and Precious Things is about a boy named Cam who leaves Afghanistan because his father, he has early onset Alzheimer's, is asking for an DNR that his older brother Xander will not give to their dad. But it's also Cam coming back and unpacking a lot of his family drama, his general trauma with his family. He had the reputation of being like just a really rambunctious kid that nobody liked, and that has definitely followed him into his adult life. And this book really explores first the relationship between Cam and his dad, who blames Cam for the death of his brother Sullivan, who died in Afghanistan, and it also explores his relationship just with the town and other people. And I really like what this book said about not giving people the space to grow and change, because this town did not give Cam the space to change or, learn from his mistakes, and they just had him pigeonholed into a corner because they needed him to fulfill this like scapegoat role for them, essentially. And I felt really proud of Cam by the end of the book for getting through all of the things he was dealing with, and I think that this is a really real problem just in life, and I love the way it was explored in this book. At number 7, I have Clara in the Sun. I'm a teacher, and I do not teach like English or anything. I'm actually a music teacher, but I think that if I had an opportunity to teach a book, not that I would, know how to do that, I'm not qualified, but I would, I think, teach this book, because I think that there is so much to discuss, and nothing about this book is heavy-handed. It's about Clara, who is an artificial friend. She's AI, and this takes place like in the near-ish future. It's like not the same world that we know, but she is an artificial friend, and she gets taken into a family of a girl who's about 13, who's also sick, maybe dying, we don't know yet. This is a very slow book that says a lot. There's so much about this world that, like, the world itself is so different from ours. However, it doesn't feel like you need to have a lot of backstory, because you're watching everything through the eyes of Clara, and we are inferring things based off of what Clara cares about. And there's so much chalked into the world that you can infer, but nothing is really ever explicitly told to you. And the characters are, like in the other Ishiguro books I've read, very flawed, but also multidimensional. And I don't know, like Clara, I would call her an unreliable narrator, not in the traditional sense, but I would call her unreliable in that, like, we are seeing things, but we don't necessarily pick up on everything immediately, because we're seeing it through Clara's eyes, and we're only really focusing on what she cares about. And I think that was like so expertly pulled off by Ishiguro. I also think that Clara as a character, oh my god, I love her. I don't know, I just loved that blind optimism that she had in this honestly very desolate, uncertain world. I loved just watching her observe human connection and never really coming to conclusions herself, but I would say she developed love for the people around her, and like I don't know. There's just so much about this book, and I feel like so much could be interpreted, and I feel like, yes, I would teach this book because I just want to discuss it with people. I loved it so much, and it was a book that took my breath away. Like, so few books have, like, actually taken my breath away, and this is one of them. Number 6 is The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros, and this one is... When my friend told me Rebecca Yarros wrote tragedies, like, this one's a tragedy. Like, there's no way to get around that. Like, there's love in it, but it's a tragedy. It is about a girl named Ella who's raising her daughter, well, her twins, while her daughter is going through cancer treatment. Her brother was in the special forces of the army. He gets killed, and then her brother Ryan's best friend comes, essentially because Ryan was like, you need to take care of my sister if anything happens to me, okay? And so he does. They have a blossoming love story. And this book was so beautiful, but it was sad. It is definitely a tragedy, but like, it said so much. I loved the characters. I loved what it said about love, found family, parenthood. I'm not even a parent. And like, when she talked about like just raising her kids, like I wept. It talks about adoption. It talks about, it just talks about so much. It's like people come out of abuse, people learn to work through trauma. I think that there's a faith lens through which you could look at this book as well. But you don't have to. It's not so overt or over your head, and just, I don't know. This was just a beautiful, beautiful book to me, and this also took my breath away. But I will warn you, like, this is a tragedy. Do not be fooled into thinking these characters are going to get out of this unscathed, and it's going to have a really bittersweet ending at the end, but, like, there's going to be some pain. I would say that. And I'm okay to be emotionally wrecked in a book, but, I mean, if you're not, do be warned. I loved this book, though. So number 5 on my list would be Dies Passionis by Asato Asato. This is book number 11 in the 86 series, and, yeah, I honestly think this one is just a masterpiece through and through. I think the top 5 books are really masterpieces. This book takes place in the Republic. Essentially, our main characters were discriminated, thrown in internment camps, forced to fight a war against these robots. They get rescued by the Federacy, and then they have to go back to the Republic, the country that previously oppressed them, and save the people in a rescue mission. And this dealt with so much. It dealt with revenge. It dealt with just the main characters having to come to terms with what happened to them, and you see them having grown a lot, and you see them have to make these hard choices, these painful choices, and still choose to help the people that oppress them because they don't want to become who they hated. And you also see characters that couldn't get over something. You've seen people get consumed by revenge, and then you also, and this was honestly my favorite part of the entire story, which is there are 3 main characters that I would say kind of, they feel to me like the role that like Roy Mustang and Riza Hawkeye play in Full Metal Alchemist, but like their story, their main storylines have kind of been concluded, and they're sort of like mentoring the next generation. But there is a scene where you just get one scene flashing back to their past, and it's when one of these characters dies, and that scene was so impactful, and like those 3 characters made such an impact on the story in so few pages, because again, this is not their book, and like like 3-page flashback, I think, that they actually ended up getting has stuck with me so much, to the point that, yes, I think that this book is a masterpiece, and I think that those 3 characters are so phenomenal, which I did not think I would say at the beginning of this series. Again, this book was just very, very impressive, and I think it was a masterpiece. So the next one would be Through the Battlefront Part 2 by Asado Asado. This is book 3 in the 86 series. Basically, the second book, when she wrote the sequel to the first book, this book was too long. So essentially, she chopped the book in half, and the third book just kind of picks up right where the second book left off, but it had kind of a bizarre finishing point in the second book, and it just resolved itself in the third book. This one is so high because Shin is one of the best characters I've read in a long time. He is like, Shin and Lena are the 2 main characters, and this is definitely Shin's journey, sort of dealing with that severe emotional damage he's had from living in the 86th sector, and essentially, like, Asado Asado just had him hit rock bottom, and you just kind of watch him pull himself out of it. And I think, and she's done this multiple times, every time she does this, it's honestly just, it's a beautiful journey. I love a good healing journey, and what I love about this is that, like, yeah, he, like, heals in some ways, but, like, he's not better yet, and none of the 86 are. Like, their recovery is, like, this ongoing journey, and I think it feels so realistic. But again, like, this is why I love this book. It's, again, Shin just hitting rock bottom and having to pick himself up, and I think it was just a beautiful, beautiful book. And so that brings me to number three, yes, and that is Darkest Before the Dawn by Asado Asado. And like the title suggests, this is essentially another book that has Shin hit rock bottom again, because he's been through some shit. And he's learning to deal with it, and he also picks himself up again. Again, it's different this time. He has different things to work on, and what I really love with this book is how he and Lena had to learn how to communicate. Lena is the other main character. She was the Republic commanding officer that they had, that then came to the Confederacy, and they have, like, a very close relationship, yet they've come from very different spheres and have to learn to come together. And what I think is a really realistic way, because you do see them just struggle to communicate with each other and not know how to help each other through stuff. And so there is a great scene where, like, he's so upset and she just wants him to talk about it, but he's, like, never known how to lean on other people before, and like, it escalates to the point that they end up fighting, and then they both have to figure out how to meet each other where they are. And just the way this was executed, again, I think was so realistic. And part of what I like so much about this series is, like, I think Asado Asado captures the messiness of healing and how you just don't always know how to help somebody, and how you do have to, like, learn to work with other people and meet people where they are. And I think just this series, she just does it so well. It's so good. Okay, so number 2 would be Fragmental Neoteny by Asado Asado. This is the 10th book in the 86 series. Again, it's actually, I didn't think that I would love it as much as I did, because it is the prequel it's like a prequel that takes place in the middle of the series. And again, I've been talking about this. Shin is, like, one of my favorite characters ever, I think. He's one of the best characters I've read, and this is just a very close look at his life before the story started, and, like, at what shaped him. When you look at what shaped him, you just learned a lot more details that made a lot of future events make more sense. And this book was just so good. I loved how it was able to slow down after the fast pace of the last couple books, and I feel like it just had so much time to breathe, and because of that I felt so connected to what was happening, even though I knew a lot of these characters were not going to make it. But yeah, there are scenes in this book that just like will not get out of my head, and that they were so chilling and sad, and they just made me feel so much. But this book was also not all sad. There were things that made me really happy, and again, I think this book was brilliant, and it was so surprising considering like I don't usually want to read a prequel in the middle of a series, and this might change my mind. This book was a masterpiece. I loved it so much. And finally, number one, my favorite book this year has been Deer Hunter by Asato Asato, and this is the most recent book within 86, and I think that this book essentially just says that cycles repeat themselves, but it did it in such a brilliant way. I think, again, a lot of characters, like, through stress and because of war, hit rock bottom. A lot of people become monsters of themselves. A lot of people make a lot of bad choices, and the situation in this book was so dire that the stakes made these decisions feel so ambiguous, because, like, yes, you know that a lot of these things people are doing are the wrong thing to do. However, the stakes just felt so high that it was understandable. But yeah, Ernst is honestly, I think he might be one of the best characters I've ever read, because of his scene in this book. His entire character arc happened so slowly that it just culminated so beautifully, and I can't necessarily even explain to it. Like, there was so much left unsaid about Ernst's backstory. Like, we don't know there are so many specifics that we don't know. However, the climax to this arc that he's had to this point was chilling. It was chilling, and like, I haven't gotten this scene out of my mind, and it's literally this scene that makes this book, I mean, the rest of the book is good too, but like, that scene I don't think will get out of my mind for a long time, and I have a really hard time putting any book above this one because of that scene. I can't tell you what happened because it's the last book that has currently been released, but oh my god, it was good. So, thank you for watching my top 10 books of the first half of this year. I mean, I like to reflect, like, in the middle of the year and at the end of the year, just in reading to myself, so I thought, why not make a video about it? I guess we'll see if any of these end up on my top 10 by the end of the year. But yeah, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. Please tell me what some of your favorite books have been this year. I would love to chat about that. So thank you. Bye.